Hey, what's going on, guys? This video lesson is about arpeggios. Okay, so basically arpeggios is a pretty simple concept in theory, but as far as applications go, extremely useful. Very good thing to work on and really incorporate into your playing. So what an arpeggio is simply just the chord, or the notes of a particular chord. Okay, so if you wanted to play a C major arpeggio, all you're doing is you're playing the notes of a C major chord, but you're not playing them at the same time. So the notes of a C major chord are the notes C, E, and G. So if you use any C on the fretboard, or any E or any G on the fretboard, or if you run through C, E, then G like that, you're doing arpeggios. Okay, so arpeggios are extremely useful because they give you a new framework to work with. So far I've taught a bunch of different scales and how to play within a diatonic key, and basically just how to solo using scales. Well, arpeggios is the next step. Okay, arpeggios focuses on the actual chords in the underlying progression. Okay, so if you have a chord progression such as A minor to F major to C major to E major, that would put you in the key of A minor. Okay, so using the scalar thinking, the scale type of thinking, you'd be using the A minor scale. Maybe do some A minor pentatonic stuff. Maybe throw in some blues licks with your A blues scale. But that's all scale type thinking. Using the arpeggio type of thinking, you're now still in the key of A minor, so you still have all those notes within the scale available to you, but now you're focusing on the actual notes of each chord as the chord is occurring. Okay? So as the A minor is occurring, you're going to be focusing on the notes that make up that chord, which is A, C, and E. And then as the F major is occurring, you're going to be focusing on the F, the A, and the C. As the C major chord is occurring, you're going to be focusing on the C, E, and G. And again, you can play these notes anywhere on the guitar. And then the E major chord is E, G sharp, and B. Okay? So the G sharp is actually out of key of A minor, but typically when you're using progressions in a minor key, the 5 chord is often a major chord. Okay, it sounds good, it works. So with that said, this is basically just a new framework for you to start thinking about. You can think of it as another layer to your playing. So, say you get real good at running your scales, soloing within a key. A lot of time your ears, what you hear, picks up the chord tones. Okay, so usually even if you're hitting a scalar tone that's within the right key, certain notes tend to sound better than others, and generally those notes that sound better than others are scale or are chord tones. Okay, so you probably already know how to do this, but you may not know that you know how to do this. Okay, you may be using your ear to hear the chord tones within the scales, but what we're going to be doing in this lesson is going to give you a new framework to guarantee that you're landing on chord tones. Okay, so with that said, let me get to the 6 different examples that I have. I have 3 major arpeggio shapes and 3 minor arpeggio shapes. Okay, so as I explained, an arpeggio is just simply using the notes of a chord, of the chord that the underlying chord within the chord progression. So technically, if you wanted to, if the chord that was occurring was an A minor, for example, you could just use the notes here. Okay? But what I'm going to be showing you is I'm going to be showing you some shapes, some movable shapes up and down the fretboard, so you can play those same notes, but you don't have to be confined to just the open position. Okay, so first I'm going to start out with the minor arpeggio shapes. Okay, so your first arpeggio shape looks like this. This is a minor arpeggio shape, and the white dot indicates the root note. Okay, so this is rooted on the A string. So whatever arpeggio you want to do, take your pinky and put it on that note. So since we're using the A minor example, since I've been talking about that, let's put our pinky on the note A. So A is your 12th fret of the A string. So put your pinky on there, and your arpeggio is as follows. Okay, so that's a minor arpeggio shape. The shape can be played anywhere for any minor chord. Okay, if you wanted to do an E minor chord, you would take your pinky and you would put on the note E, which is the 7th fret of the A string, and you would just apply this shape. Okay, doesn't matter where you play it, your pinky just goes on the root note. Okay, so your second arpeggio shape is also rooted on the A, but this one you use your first finger to put it on the root. So again, we'll use the A minor arpeggio as our example. So first finger, 12th fret, A string, and you simply just play this pattern. Okay, now you don't always have to do arpeggios in that order. Usually you hear this kind of stuff done when in metal when they're sweeping and stuff, but you don't have to play the arpeggios in this order. You can just, this is just a framework, okay? So if you're playing over a minor chord, you can use these shapes to basically give you your framework of the notes that are located or that are contained within that chord. Okay, so if you want, you can sweep through it, or you can just use it as the notes that light up that are available to you. Say, okay, A minor chord's occurring. I know these are the notes in the A minor, and these are also the notes in the A minor, okay? So this is just a framework. All right, so the third type of minor chord shape that I'm going to give you is rooted on the E string. Okay, and this one looks like this. Okay, so this one you take your first finger and you put it on your root. So again, we're going to do A minor. So here's your A, 5th fret, low E string, and you play it like this. Oops, sorry about that. You can even go up to here. Okay, so that's another shape. You know that all those notes are located or contained within the A minor chord. Alright, so anytime a minor chord is occurring, you can play the shape, or you can play the shape, or you can play the shape. Okay, and when I say play the shape, you can just play those notes. You always know that that tone is going to sound good, okay? Even when you're running your scales or doing all kinds of stuff, you can always land on one of these chord tones and it's going to sound really, really good. Okay, so let's get on to the major arpeggio shapes. Okay, so now let me give you 3 shapes for major chords. Alright, so anytime a major chord is occurring in the progression, you can use these shapes as your framework or your light up notes that will always sound good as that particular major chord is occurring. Okay, so the first one, it's going to be rooted on the A string. Okay, and again, this first example, you put your pinky on the root. So I'm going to use C major for this example, but you could use any major chord, it doesn't matter. So there's a C here on the 3rd fret of the A string, and there's also C up here on the 15th fret of the A string. So I'm going to do the one up here, okay? So pinky on the root, and then your shape looks like this. Okay, so those are all the notes of the C major chord, C, E, and G, just played in that particular shape. Okay, so then the second type of major chord is also rooted on the A string, and this one you put your first finger on the root, and so we could try this one again. Up on the 15th fret, first finger, 15th fret, A string, and the shape looks like this. Okay, all C's, E's, and G's can be used over C chord. Alright, so the third shape is going to be rooted on the E string, and you're going to put your first finger on the root. So again, with the C, you have a C here on your 8th fret. Okay, 8th fret, low E string. Play the shape. And you can go up to here too. Alright, and again, if you want to sweep through these, you can go ahead and do that. Or you can just use these as frameworks to make your soloing sound really, really nice. Okay, because when you're playing and you're just playing in scales, it tends to have a certain scalar sound, if that makes sense. But it tends to just sound like you're running up and down scales. But when you start focusing on chord tones, and there's many different ways to do that, but this is just one. But when you start focusing on chord tones, it really, really, your solos start to really come to life. It really outlines the song, okay? So when you hear those guys that are just making these amazing solos, and you're wondering how they're able to do it, and you're not able to do it, basically what they're doing is they're focusing on chord tones, okay? So this is one way to focus on chord tones. So with that said, let me leave you with a little musical example of how to incorporate arpeggios into your playing. Alright, so hopefully that demonstration was helpful. Basically what I was doing there was I was just in the key of A minor, except for the E major chord that contains the G sharp, which is not necessarily in the key of A minor, but I highlighted the out of key note in orange, and that orange note is actually what creates the harmonic minor scale. But anyway, that's aside the point. For the most part, it was in the key of A minor. So my scalar framework was the A minor key. But what I was trying to do was, as each chord change was occurring, I was trying to land on a chord tone. And I was also trying to walk through the arpeggios as each chord was playing. So basically I was trying to outline the sound of the chord progression as opposed to just the sound of A minor in general. Okay? So hopefully it was clear that every time a chord change occurred, if I was always hitting chord tones, and it was making a real pretty, it sounded real nice with the chord. So that's how this stuff works. The scale is your overall framework to work in A minor, but then the chord tones is more specific area to focus on, okay? So you really can play with this stuff in any way you want. You can combine scales, you can do all kinds of stuff, but I'm just trying to give it to you layer by layer, because the whole fretboard is ultimately a big puzzle, but chord tone targeting is one huge part of it that should really be a large part of your focus after you get the basic scales down, okay? So hopefully that was helpful. If you have any questions or comments or suggestions, hit me up. I'll be glad to answer them. Thanks a lot.